Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about how I make cactus prints using cardboard shapes that I've cut out from cardboard boxes. Nothing special, just boxes from Amazon or whatever I have laying around the house. You can see here I'm just painting directly onto the shape, and I didn't paint all of it because I'm going to come in later with another shape in that cutout area. And I just paint on, in this case, I use burnt sienna and probably phthalo blue to make a dark green. I just paint on the cardboard and I press it down and it leaves all of these great textures. I don't clean them. I leave the paint on there because textures build up over time. And so no two prints are going to be the same. Sometimes I peel off the corrugation and expose that so I can have some line effects. Sometimes I don't. And then you'll see I've used the second print in a little bit of burnt sienna, and then the third shape came in with a little more burnt sienna in the original green that I created. I'm going to go ahead and dry this to try to speed this video up a little bit. When you're using a blow dryer on a gel plate, make sure that you don't use the heat settings. Make sure that you only use cool. Heat will damage the gel plate, and so you don't want to do that. They're not super expensive, but they're not cheap either. And I just use the Gel Arts jelly plates, and this is a 8x10. I have two 8x10s, and then two larger sizes and a couple smaller sizes, but I tend to work on the 8x10s the most. You can see I'm kind of blotting up some of the excess paint here, trying to get it dry. And then I'll start washing in color. First, I'm going to actually put in graphite powder to add a little grunge in. So I tend to put some on the ground, and then I'll just use the shaft of the paintbrush to kind of push it around to get a little bit of a sand effect. And then I do use a mixture of half gel medium, gloss medium, and half water. And then I use that to sort of add a little more grunge and shadow into the cactus shapes themselves before I put in the paint. So you'll see that's what I'm doing here, is just building up the different layers of shadow. I don't really try to control it too much. I kind of let things happen, and sometimes you'll see me in the videos plopping some graphite into a puddle of that gloss medium mixture and just smacking my paintbrush in it to get a couple splatters, a little bit uncontrolled. You'll see me come in here probably with the blow dryer again, and I'm actually taking off some of the darkness with tape. Got a little dark on me on the ground, so. And here I am blotting some excess medium up, adding a little more graphite powder, blowing it dry so I can keep working. And I'm showing you my shapes that I used. So I typically take paint straight from the tube when I do these, and I'm using vermilion here as a background just to get a little color on the ground area. And then I'm going in with some Diox purple for the shadows. And I'm not doing a thick layer here. I'm just doing a loose layer that adds some color. I'm not looking for full coverage. I'm looking for almost a transparent layer or an incomplete layer so that I can lay other colors on top. That last blue was a phthalo blue. I like to use that on my shadows in the cactus. And now I'm coming in with probably a lime green to highlight some of the highlight areas in the cactus. I like to use lime green, and I like to use aqua for my highlights. And so you'll see a lot of use of both those colors. Now for the spines and the smaller forms, I have come back in with Naples yellow, and I'm kind of making sure that stands out to help emphasize those spines. You have to remember whenever you're working on a gel plate that you have to work foreground to background. So in this case, the yellow is going to be in front of all the other colors that I put on. So it's sort of like painting on glass. It's not very intuitive, but once you kind of wrap your brain around it, it will actually help. And now I'm coming in with burnt sienna on the ground. Again, just doing a loose wash, not making it a opaque layer. Later on, you'll see that I'll put opaque paint on there. So I'm just going to work into the cactuses here a little bit with different colors of green, again, straight from the tube. I don't tend to get too picky. You'll notice at the end of this video that this is one of those gel plate prints that doesn't work out. It actually sticks to the plate and pulls, but I've included it in this video series because I think it's important to know that you spend a lot of time sometimes with the gel plate and it doesn't work out, but that's okay. You know, just get another piece of paper, spend a little more time. It's just time and paint. There's no, you know, tragedy if your gel plate doesn't work out. And sometimes I can salvage pieces of the pieces that don't pull correctly or not exactly what I want, and I'll use those for collage or just, you know, to experiment on. But I do at the end show a print that actually pulled correctly using this method, so you will see it just won't be this image. But I will show you that when I pull this print, I did keep that in the video, how it can rip when you pull it. And in this case, I think it ripped because I didn't let it dry maybe as much as I needed to. So I've added some light purple. You can see the shadows. That's going to come in and fill in the gaps in the Diox purple that I put in. And then I've started to add some of the yellow color family or the golden color family to the ground. And now I'm going back in, obviously, with more green on the cactus. And at some point, it's probably that I'm adding a lot more paint than you're going to probably see on the front of this. But, you know, this is my process. You could probably do more opaque layers or fewer layers and get maybe a similar effect, but I tend to build up with a lot of thin layers. Again, going in more with, looks like burnt sienna again on the ground behind the yellow. Now, when I get to the point where the ground is finished, I'll actually go in and go over it with unbleached titanium in order to give that opaque coverage so that when I put the last pull layer, which is the blue for the sky, it doesn't bleed through into the ground. The ground will have a nice warm tone to it, but none of the blue will show through. Now I'm going to go in and start preparing the cactus for being a little bit more opaque. You're going to see bigger swashes of paint go on. I don't typically go all the way to the edges of the cactus because I want a little bit of bleed through on the background, which will be just a straight blue out of the tube. I use all sorts of paints for the gel plate. I use Artist Loft. I use Liquitex Basics. My favorites are Liquitex Basics. I feel like they work best on the gel plate, but I'll use Heavy Body. I'll use whatever I kind of have laying around. Sometimes that's purposeful. Sometimes it's what's on the table or what's next to me. And I'll mix a lot of my own colors on some of the other work that I do on the gel plate. For the cactuses, I tend to just straight out of the tube. And also my skeletons, if you look on my Instagram, which is at Constance Hall Art, Texas. You can search for me at Constance Hall. And I believe it's CHALLARTTX is my Instagram handle. But I do skeletons with the gel plate using graphite powder, and I tend to come straight out of the tube on those colors as well. But for my portraits, I will mix, and portraits take a long time to set up. This cactus setup probably took an hour and a half. My portraits can take anything from 3 to 4 hours to set up. It's a lot of layering, and it depends upon how complex they are and how many shadows. But I do have a video out there of a portrait that I made of my great aunt that you can watch. So this is getting close to needing the ground to be put in. So I'm guessing that might be my next step. Yep, so here is unbleached titanium coming in. And this is just to give an opaque coverage background so that, again, the sky doesn't bleed through when I do my final pull color. Now this, you will see other gel artists or artists that use gel plates. They'll do a lot of thin layers. This is pretty thick on the plate. I tend to let my prints dry overnight under weights. I use a really heavy paper, heavy 100% cotton drawing paper, 100 pound or greater is what I typically use. And I do put it under a couple book weights after I adhere the paper to it. And I get asked a lot, why do you use the gel plate for this? Why don't you just paint it direct? And I really like printmaking, and this is a sort of unique printmaking aspect. 2, I really like the gel plate. 3, I really love the texture that you get from a gel plate versus a painting. So I do painting as well, and I'll paint in oil and acrylics, mixed media. But for certain things, I just like the gel plate. It's really fun to do color experiments on the gel plate. Sometimes I just sit down and just squish some colors on there to see what comes up. But there are a lot of videos on YouTube about how to use the gel plate, and it's very versatile. You can use it for a lot of different things. Along with prints, I'll use it to make t-shirts, sometimes collage paper, sometimes backgrounds for paintings. So here's the final pull layer. You can see it's a little bit thicker than what you would normally see on most gel plate printing. I'm going to adhere the paper down, throw some books on it. I'm going to wait overnight. That was magic. Here we are the next day, and you're going to see that this rips when I pull it. And this is very disappointing after spending that time sending it up. That's what it would look like if it pulled cleanly. But you're going to see it rip, and then you're going to see me try to go from the other side. Sometimes if you rip, you can go from the other side and it won't rip, and you can kind of repair that damage with medium, but you can see this is not happening. It's sticking to the plate. It could be that I needed to condition my plate or for a variety of reasons. So here is an example of one done. Same technique, different print. I hope that this helps you all with your gel plating.